Indianapolis, the news starts now.
Staying on message, I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Biden in a Philadelphia suburb this evening, repeating some of the themes of last night's State of the Union address.
Folks, our freedoms really are on the ballot this November.
Last night, the president did not name his likely opponent, but took him on today.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans are trying to take away our freedoms. That's not an exaggeration. Well, guess what? We will not let him.
And touching on the economy, the president said wages are up and inflation is coming down. And he said he believes the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates. The Senate has reached a deal on a series of bills that will keep the government running, avoiding a shutdown that was set to happen at midnight tonight.
Today's bipartisan agreement gives us momentum and space to finish the remaining appropriation bills by March 22nd. Of course, it's going to take both sides working together to keep that momentum alive.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says this is an important step in fully funding the government. Former President Trump has posted bond in the defamation case recently won by a New York City writer.
Former President Trump has secured a bond worth almost $92 million from the federal insurance company, sufficient to support the $83 million jury award to writer E. Jean Carroll. Carroll won the January defamation trial that stemmed from a 1996 rape claim she made against the former president in her 2019 memoir. He is appealing the verdict to the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. The former president is facing pressure to set aside money to cover not only the Carroll judgment, but also the $454 million civil fraud penalty for lying about his wealth and financial statements. He has until March 25th to pay that judgment or secure a bond, and the interest tax on another $112,000 each day.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers in New York City. America is listening to Fox News.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
A problem with the prosecutor. I'm Harrison Silcox. Here's what's trending this hour. Delphi murder suspect Richard Allen is still innocent until proven guilty, and his attorneys are trying to put together their defense. But now there's a problem.
Allen's legal team filed an ex parte motion this week asking the judge for funding.
The way it should have been handled is only the judge sees that motion, nobody else in the case, no other party, no public entity, nobody from the public.
Michael Moore of the Indiana Public Defender Council, but that ex parte motion wasn't kept private. Prosecutor Nick McClellan admitted to reading that motion in a Friday court filing, and he's done this in the past. McClellan said it was a mistake, but it does affect Allen's defense. It's unclear if the prosecutor will be punished. Donnie Burgess, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
Retired public employees like teachers, state excise police, and conservation officers will soon get a 13th check from Indiana.
So 13th check was a way to help give them a little boost for their quality of life. So this is long overdue in the last 2 or 3 years that we've been working on this.
A Democratic Representative Greg Porter says payments are based on an employee's number of years vested in their retirement plan. It's on Governor Holcomb's desk waiting for him to sign it. Low temperatures and rain this weekend means snow could be in the mix in parts of Indiana.
Maybe a tenth or two, especially up in the northern parts of Indiana. But other than that, it's going to be kind of cloudy and cool for Saturday. Highs in the low 40s to upper 30s.
Aaron Updike, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, says temperatures will warm up back to the 60s by Monday. On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com, here's the forecast from the American Standard Heating Weather Center.
We have steady light rain this evening with an occasional thunder shower or two passing by. Under those, you'll have heavier pockets of rain. Low temperature drops to 43 degrees, winds out of the northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Bruno Suiters for 93 WIBC.
What people suffering from nasal breathing, snoring, and sleep apnea problems want is for their issues to be fixed. And at Advent, that is precisely what we do. Here, there are no Band-Aids, but there is a thorough approach to get to the root of your problem. And in tens of thousands of cases, finding simple solutions, which are undeniably effective, have made remarkably positive impacts on people's lives. I'm Dr. Madan Kandula. For years, patients have been traveling literally from around the world to come to us to find what no one else has been able to give them. And that's why now we've come closer to you.
If your quality of life has been diminished because of nasal breathing, snoring, or sleep apnea problems, and you don't know who to turn to, go to adventknows.com to schedule your appointment, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better.
Breathe well with simple solutions. Breathe well with simple solutions. Advent knows.
Results may vary.
Discovery, innovation, progress. It all starts right here at IU Indianapolis. We're making cutting-edge discoveries in science, technology, and healthcare. We're investing in Indiana's future with degrees that make a difference. We're partnering with local businesses to drive our city forward. And we're just getting started. See where we're going at indianapolis.iu.edu/start.
Hey, it's Big Joe for your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer, Absolute Comfort. Chris Wedekin is the owner, and he says working for a glass house builder has made them experts at heating and cooling.
When the sun comes up on one side and sets on the other, the demand is much larger on one side at one part of the day and much larger on the other side of one part of the day. So with zoning, we can solve your issues.
Make your home absolutely comfortable by going to AbsoluteComfort.org. Absolute Comfort is your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Tony Katz.
It's Kendall and Casey.
The Hammer and Nigel show. All right, when does your show start? Do we know? I feel like I've been promoting this for 9 years now.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Good evening, hello, and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on 93.1 FM out of Indianapolis. The live streams on Twitter, X, and YouTube.com/WIBC. It really is a day for the majority of Americans to listen to both sides of the aisle, the media, and a bunch of individuals tell you about how wonderful and amazing or how absolutely terrible and evil the State of the Union address is. You may see a couple of clips on television that are carefully and poignantly picked in order to present the best possible outcome for whatever it is about the State of the Union that they want to convey. I'm really not satisfied with that because I actually made the awful life decision to stay up and not just watch the President Biden's last State of the Union address, but I did also make the kind of unwise decision to spend the entire time fact-checking it. And what we ended up finding actually has a lot more to do with the common American than you might think. And that brings us to the victory lap the Biden administration is running today that is kind of has a lot of people around the country scratching their heads. So here's what the President of the United States looks like at a rally today, trying to cheer on his performance at last night's State of the Union.
I got my usual warm reception from Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene. In my address, I spoke about how far we've come since we took office. I talked about how much is at stake.
If you hadn't seen the State of the Union address, you might be tempted to think that, this is what he said, just kind of like all other State of the Union addresses, which is where the president enters the chamber and everyone kisses the ring of the president. And as he makes his regal march down those hollowed steps and then up the steps of the dais to the speaker's podium, he tells everyone the United States is here. The State of the Union is strong. And this is why we must keep going. That's what every State of the Union address has been like, not just in modern history, but really, really to the beginning of the 20th century. And back even when the State of the Union was but a letter to Congress, it has always been the kind of letter in which the President of the United States says, here's where the Union is. The United States is a nation that is doing well because of its people and because of the policies that we're working on, and we need to keep going. That's every State of the Union address. And what started out as kind of an interesting American tradition of, again, a president of a committee, kind of reciting the minutes of the last year, kind of going over some of the highlights, it has become this crazy monarchical spectacle that is extremely out of touch with the rest of the country. The truth of the matter is the majority of you, including myself, hate the State of the Union. You hate the State of the Union like you hate daylight savings time because it is aggressively pointless. We were not founded as an imperial country with a monarch to come in and grace Parliament, and we all cheer, oh, look, it's the president, everyone, and he strolls in, and people come up and shake his hand like it's the verse of the hymn at church where you're supposed to go around and shake everyone's hand and welcome them. And everyone is now, because this is on TV and it's analyzed from every single angle on camera, on cable, on the internet, on every social media platform, what people are wearing and how they are acting at the State of the Union address has become ever more flamboyant. And by the way, there are people who say that, well, the United States has a lot of, influence around the world, so giving the State of the Union address is a really important occasion. The United States is no longer an imperial nation. There was a brief time from the 1890s till just about the beginning of the Second World War in which the United States had enough territories that functioned essentially as protectorates or colonies that you could call the United States an empire. We are no longer an empire. We are not. The territories that we have are small and I would say relatively lacking in influential or goods production, influence or goods production for the United States. The United States has its own internal squabbles and struggles. A huge State of the Union address is just kind of weird. But that's not enough. The spectacle is really something else. So first of all, congressmen are just treating this like second Halloween. And I absolutely despise it. So if you haven't had the opportunity, go find an article talking about how people dressed at the State of the Union. We had all kinds of great stuff. We had Cori Bush and Rashida Tlaib, two members of the squad, draping each other. Like, actually, they didn't walk in wearing this. They were draping right before the State of the Union began, draping each other with beautiful black and white keffiyeh scarves, which, by the way, is part of the uniform and the dress of Hamas. These black and white scarves are explicitly pro-Hamas, so they're dressing up as the captors of American citizens currently over in the Gaza Strip, which is interesting. You had Ilhan Omar and others holding signs that say ceasefire and no more bombs. Like it's an NFL game, like people holding up signs in the crowd. You had a huge group of goobers from the Democrat parties that are wearing white to celebrate abortion, which I don't think that you quite understand what the whole wearing white thing is about. But anywho, you had goobers over on the right. You had Marjorie Taylor Greene looking like she just walked out of a thrift store high on drugs. Very weird red blazer, a MAGA hat, and then also like a big, huge T-shirt that was talking about Laken Riley, which that part's good. But then you had Representative Troy Nehls. He's wearing a T-shirt with a big Trump mugshot on it. It doesn't look like Congress. I want my congressman to not embarrass me when he goes to the House. I want my senators to not embarrass me when they go to the Senate. I don't need to be embarrassed by our congressmen. We should have adults. We should. And the fact of the matter is that neither of the parties are interested in being adults in the House. And those that are adults in the House are leaving. And that's concerning. That's annoying to you and I, because when we go somewhere nice, we dress respectfully. No one dresses like Marjorie Taylor Greene, look like a drunk trucker, going out to somewhere nice. The truckers that I know dress nicely when they go to nice places. At the biggest gala of the year for Congress, show up wearing something appropriate. Quit making a fool out of yourself, because that's really the truth of the State of the Union address these days. The idea of the State of the Union is basically just to be like a reality TV show. So if you don't know, those reality TV show competitions where they're making cupcakes or they're cooking in like a heated kitchen or they're designing things, the outside interviews and the camera shots during the show are now filled with people trying to make faces like Jim Halpert from The Office, hoping upon a star that someone will zoom the camera in and then they will become internet famous for a few minutes because their face will be used as some kind of a reaction picture to post under other people's statuses. That's what this entire thing has become. I will remind you that Pelosi stood up and clapped in Donald Trump's face like a weirdly drunk penguin. And now everyone's zooming in on Speaker Mike Johnson. What's his face look like? Oh, there's Kamala Harris. What's she doing? What's AOC doing over here? Marjorie Taylor Greene screaming. Now somebody's screaming from the balcony. We're not a serious country, guys. And I'm sorry, the Banana Republic stuff does not only really apply when it's just the agencies doing garbage, but when your congressmen, who you are paying, by the way, are going to the State of the Union address to make fools out of themselves, the president included, that is something else. And speaking of the president, we need to talk about what the president was stopped by on his way. He was late to the State of the Union address because some pro-Palestinian protesters did what they do best, which is sit in the road and do nothing. And I thought it would have been kind of funny if President Biden would have just like floored it and probably would have gained 30 percentage points in the polls, but he didn't do that. He went around a different way because they know how to do that, drivers. They know how to go around things. And President Biden walks in and he is clearly on all kinds of amphetamines, all of the stimulants. And by the way, as someone who does from time to time take Adderall, there is a point when the Adderall starts to kind of reach its apex and then wear off, where the muscles that turn your eyes left and right no longer move to conserve focus and energy. And so there's a lot of like upper body head turning when you're moving to focus on something. That was all Biden. Very, very overstimulated, very wild. And this brings us to the most important questions, which are, what did President Biden need to accomplish during the State of the Union? Because after the insanely disastrous appearances on camera that he's had since the beginning of 2024, he is officially trailing in every single major national poll by several points to Donald Trump. He needed to do something. We're going to talk about what he needed to do and whether he actually accomplished those. We're digging in tonight, so strap in. It's going to be fun. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
I also did say that men are not women and women are not men, and men do not breastfeed and never will, because those are facts. And anybody who says otherwise, that person shouldn't be allowed to practice medicine. They're crazy. I will have that debate with anyone at any med school anywhere. Let's start setting a standard that we focus on medicine and not insanity.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
I'm Darren Andrews from We Grow Hair Indy, and 18 years ago, I got my hair back.
I'm Rob, and 2 years ago, I got my hair back. Let this be your year to get your hair back and get your confidence back. Go to WeGrowHairIndy.com right now. We Grow Hair Indy has the multi-unit hair grafting hair transplant. That was the procedure that was best for me. Their easy 30-minute PRP and laser treatments fit into any man or woman's schedule. Find out which procedure is right for you. Call 317-522-2995 for your free hair and scalp evaluation.
I'm Rick DeMoline, former professional football player. I got my hair back. Hey, Barry Krause, #1 draft pick. I got my hair back.
Join me and thousands of others and get your hair back. Call 317-522-2995 or visit WeGrowHairIndy.com. That's 317-522-2995. This year, get your hair back. Get your confidence back.
Hi, this is Denny Smith, and most people just don't believe how much dust, dander, and bacteria are living and breeding in their carpets. Same thing with their ductwork, but it's absolutely true because the carpets really are the largest air filter in the home, and the ductwork circulates everything throughout the house. It's spring, and it's a great time to clean things up. Zero-Res will clean 3 rooms of carpet starting at $129, plus a free hallway and $75 off air duct cleaning, too. Now, that's a great spring deal from Zero-Res. And the whole family will see how your carpets and floors are clean and fresh thanks to Zero-Res. The Zero-Res service is easy to line up, and you can go online at ZeroResIndy.com to do the scheduling at your convenience. And don't forget the ZR water difference. No soap, no residue, no harsh chemicals, leaving things really clean. Now mention WIBC and get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at $129 plus a free hallway, and you'll get $75 off air duct cleaning too. Call 317-388-5141 or book things online at ZeroResIndy.com.
When life happens, Michelis happens to help you through it. That includes water, storms, fire, and the whole insurance mess. Working hand in hand with the claims adjuster, Michelis is your advocate, your voice, your local trusted advisor for cleaning up, building back, and moving forward when disaster strikes. Now that is an insurance policy. Make it Michelis. Call 844-FIX-INDY.
My husband, Bob, has Parkinson's, and he needs more help now, and I need more support to help him. Thanks to Indiana Pathways for Aging, we're getting the support we need to help him right here at home, like with meal prep and basic personal care, and even respite support for me.
Pathways provides Hoosier Medicaid members, age 60 and over, support for care their way, so they can live life their way. Eligible members can select a plan now. Call 87-PATHWAY-4 or visit in.gov/pathways.
Community Health Network cares for your heart health. From heart scans and vascular screenings to complex heart procedures, you can count on our expert team for the highest quality cardiovascular care, when and where you need it. Your path to a healthy heart starts with knowing your risk. Schedule a heart scan or vascular screening today. Visit ecommunity.com/heart. Community Health Network. Exceptional care. Simply delivered.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
Hey, welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on 93 WIBC. So last night, I'd already been up for the entire day, like many of you, trying to do my best to manage the kids, trying to make sure that my wife got to where she needed to be and those kinds of things, worked a full day, and then did the show, and then made the mistake. Many of you went to sleep and spent your evening far better than I did. I stayed up watching the State of the Union. And for the Daily Signal, I had 3 questions that I thought needed to be answered. Can Biden do the following? Because he needs to. He is down in he's down in all 5 of the major national polls to Donald Trump before November. So Biden, in the State of the Union address, desperately needs to prove 3 things. These things are, he needs to prove to the American people that he's the guy they elected in 2020, both in leadership and also in mental and physical capacity. Number 2, he needs to prove that he is not what he says Trump is. Let me rephrase that. He needs to prove that he isn't the caricature that he is painting of Donald Trump. Because the only thing he's really holding on to right now is Donald Trump is worse. So he needed to prove that he wasn't the things he's claiming Trump is. And then finally, he needs to prove that he can be the president of the moderate middle. There are so many Americans on the left and then on the right who are so tired of every single time. There's a state representative in Indiana, and I'm not going to say his name because I'm not interested in starting a big kerfluffle. But every time that he got in front of the State House, I cringed because he was going to say the stupidest of the stupid nonsense. And in the same way, when I hear certain state senators that I've spoken to on the Education Committee in Indiana, they get up at the state Senate, and in the committees, they say the stupidest things known to man. And I'm looking at the state representative primary candidates on both sides of the aisle, here in Indiana and abroad, and no one's learned the lesson that you can't just be patently insane and the most progressive or the most populist candidate to walk the face of the earth and expect people just want normalcy. They really do. I am tired. I am a journalist who thrives on the chaos, and even I am so tired of the chaos. So Biden has to prove that he's less chaos than Trump, and that means appealing to the moderate middle, because people get kind of turned off by the ick of the always 110% insanity. Instead, he ended up flunking all 3. Objectively, the President of the United States failed all 3 of those things that he needed to prove. This was, without a doubt, and according to individuals on both the left and the right, the most divisive State of the Union address in history. You may say, well, why does that matter? Why, a president getting up to speak is the same as any other time. Well, the State of the Union address in every form has been pretty much the same since its inception, that it is supposed to be the state of the Union. It is supposed to be a spotlight on the goodness of the United States. And instead, President Biden got up in front of the country and screaming. In the first part was a lot of like screaming and yelling and like slapping of the podium. And then it kind of faded into the rambly, garbledy, jarbled nonsense that you're used to when the stimulants start to wear off. He began by calling everyone who didn't agree with him a Putin-supporting Nazi in the first 3 minutes of the speech. At the height of the Obama administration's divisive nature, Obama did not mention any political opponents for the first 20 minutes of the State of the Union address. So for the first fourth to third, you're supposed to focus on, hey, we're United States citizens, you and me, we're Americans, we want the same great things for the country. Even if you and I disagree on the ways that we're going to take to get there, we still love this country. And when I worked at Knightstown Intermediate School, and one of my co-teachers was an English teacher, a guy by the name of Robbie Hadley, and he is a kind of a Bernie supporting lefty guy. I, as you all know, am the conservative guy, and he was probably my closest friend in the school. And when we would argue about politics, which was quite often because we both like politics, we always came back to you and I both love the country, but we want very different things. Biden, instead of doing this in the most pivotal election speech he's probably going to give until the debates, and even that's kind of on the ropes now, he comes out by saying everyone who doesn't want to just give money to Ukraine forever loves Putin. And then the crazy, just open, bald-faced lies start. I'm not talking about the kind of lies where you say something and you're like, well, I actually kind of meant this, so we're going to walk that back. And I mean, here's some additional context so that you don't think I'm a liar. I'm saying that Biden just came out and said things that were patently and blatantly false. So first of all, President Biden came out and said that, well, first of all, he said the threat to democracy must be defended, and everyone was very confused. After comparing himself to Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1941, basically talking about the existential threat of Imperial Japan and Nazism to the United States, Biden suggested that Trump told Putin that he should just do whatever he wants to Europe and he'd bow down to this Russian dictator. And the Republican side of the aisle, understandably, was like, no. And then Biden starts yelling, "Not your quote! Not your quote!" And it turns out that it's not. It's not at all. In a campaign rally speech, Donald Trump told the gathered assembly that if the other members of NATO did not start contributing money to their national defense, because right now the United States bankrolls all of NATO, we're gaining additional members by the day, so that all these other countries can have free healthcare. If they didn't start chipping in money, then there might come a time when he says, you know what, I'm tired of paying all of your ways, then do whatever you want. And that is very different because, first of all, in his very exacerbatory style, Donald Trump was making the case people need to start pulling their weight. And by the way, since he made that statement, other countries have actually started passing measures and filing measures to their legislatures to start funding NATO because they know the gravy train in a lot of ways is about over whether they like it or not due to the unstable nature of the U.S. economy. So then the president really starts to go just downhill, making a lot of crazy claims. So he claims that much like the Nazis and Imperial Japan, January 6th was a dagger at the throat of American democracy, and it was a big plot to steal the election, the gravest threat to our democracy since the Civil War, Joe Biden screamed. No, not even a little. It was a 2-hour, very poorly run riot in which very few things were damaged. The only person who was killed was a person on the side of the protest. And then that was it. And people were arrested, and then that was the whole shebang. There have been a lot of way, way, way worse terror attacks on state legislature capitals and the capital of the United States. 1954, 4 Puerto Rican terrorists. 1971, the Weather Underground bombed the Capitol. There are all just a whole manner of situations in which far worse things have happened to both the U.S. Capitol and also, by the way, suspending democracy in the United States has happened several times. Franklin Delano Roosevelt in, rounding up Japanese American citizens and putting them in internment camps. That's a much greater threat to democracy than some idiots who roamed around the Capitol and stood between the ropes in Statutory Hall and then also did some expertly stupid things. President Biden also claimed that he was cutting the federal deficit. He absolutely hasn't. He claimed that COVID-19 was the worst economic crisis in a century. If you think that COVID-19 was worse than the Great Depression, you need a lot of assistance. He said most Americans are said to support Roe v. Wade. Polls don't show this. He also claimed that the Alabama Supreme Court made in vitro fertilization illegal. That's not even remotely true. And then he claimed that Roe v. Wade caused that to go into effect, which is also not remotely true. The one that gets everyone probably the most upset is when he called Laken Riley, the nursing student that was killed by a Venezuelan gang member. You got to see this one for yourself. So he's getting heckled, talking about the border. He picks up a button Marjorie Taylor Greene gave to him and says,
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals?
So, first of all, he calls her Lincoln Riley twice. So always just fantastic stuff from the President of the United States, the absolute incompetent. Then he doubles down. And by the way, the name Laken Riley, that was written on the button he picked up. It's not like he read that and said, "Oh, Lincoln." No, it says Laken on the pin. The president then started making an excuse that thousands of Americans aren't being killed by illegal immigrants every single day. And by the way, the reaction to the president of the United States saying illegals caused a massive firestorm for the left, which genuinely is one of the greatest tells that the president of the United States is in deep trouble for re-election. To close out, he said things like books were being banned. They're not. Transgenderism is a fundamental right. That doesn't even mean anything. He claimed that voters were being suppressed. That's blatantly false. There are a lot of things that he just basically came out and claimed that were just untrue, all while screaming at the crowd. And that's a problem for the president of the United States, because he's been saying that Trump is the crazy, screaming, insane person. And then instead he ends up coming out and screaming. And really, it's looking at the president of the United States, who ended up speaking for 70 minutes and going through all of these motions of insanity that really dig into all of the things he was trying to accomplish in the State of the Union speech. And it really might end up being the amphetamine-fueled linchpin in his electoral chances of recovery in November. We're going to be talking about that next, because we haven't even talked about him openly threatening the Supreme Court yet. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on 93 WIBC.
Spring is here and you want to be enjoying your life, enjoying the outdoors. It is impossible to do if you're in constant pain. Pain in your hips, your back, your shoulder, those joints, whether it's arthritis pain, sports injury, an injury on the job. Talk to QC Kinetics and you don't have to live with the pain. QC Kinetics here in Indy, and it's the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. We're talking about lasting joint pain relief with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. Pro athletes have been doing this for decades, but now this life-changing treatment is available for you. Walk, run, climb the stairs, play golf, move again with no pain, no risky surgery. It's an all-natural solution. QC Kinetics is in Eagle Creek, in Greenwood, and in Carmel. Call today, 317-559-PAIN. 317-559-PAIN. Talk to QC Kinetics. They even have Saturday appointments available. QC Kinetics. Find the location closest to you. Eagle Creek, Greenwood, and Carmel. 317-559-PAIN.
Dents happen. There's a whole lot of stuff that can mess up the look of your vehicle. Don't paint your car. Go PDR with Kill a Dent Removal. PDR is paintless dent removal that saves your factory finish and is way less invasive than traditional body shop repairs. And it's faster too, sometimes same day. Google Kill a Dent Removal and check out the reviews and photos. Then schedule your repair. Hail baseballs, kids, fender benders, shopping carts, flying cows, angry X's, and anything else that leaves dents. Don't paint your car. Go PDR with Kill a Dent Removal.
Hey, Wings Etc. fans, guess what? March 13th is Wing Scooter Madness Day. We're rolling back prices on award-winning wings and big ice cold schooners to just 59 cents for wings and $5.25 for domestic schooners. Dine in only. Mark your calendars for this Wednesday, March 13th, and get great deals on wings and domestic schooners when you dine in on Wing Scooter Madness Day. This March 13th, one day only, and only at your local Wings Etc. Wings Etc. Grill and Pub with 15 Central Indiana locations. Find us online at wingsetc.com.
My house has a new glow. I love my windows. Universal Windows Direct.
Hey, it's Rob. Right now, schedule your free in-home estimate, and for every 2 windows you buy, get the next 2 free. Plus, free upgrade to triple pane glass, and they'll double your energy tax credit. Restrictions apply. Like me, you'll be saying, I love my windows.
I love my windows. They've got that brand new home effect. Universal Windows Direct.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. I'm often asked, how'd you become the largest injury firm in the world? The answer is simple. We cared a lot. Over 30% of our new clients are referred by former clients. That says it all. Our clients have lawyers, case managers, and legal assistants always in the office. Every client has their attorney's cell phone number. Our results in client satisfaction. That's how we became the largest injury firm in the world. Injured? Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Cancer's worst gets our best. Franciscan Health is a national leader in treating colorectal cancer, achieving the highest standards in cancer care. With accredited programs, board-certified oncologists, and fellowship-trained colorectal surgeons, Franciscan Health is focused on your future, offering the most advanced treatments and latest clinical trials that are no match for colorectal cancer.
Meet colorectal cancer's toughest opponent at franciscanhealth.org/colon cancer care. That's franciscanhealth.org/colon cancer care.
Tune in Saturdays 9 to 1 for the Home and Garden Show for advice and fun. Brought to you by Michaelis. Water, storms, fire, and wet basements. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it.
Hammer and Nigel here, inviting you to join us as we kick off the weekend every Friday around 5:45 with Beer Sample Friday. Brought to you by our friends at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
The Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show is this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. For hunting, sporting, and personal protection gear, visit the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show.
Go where the pros go. Drexel Interiors for Timberlake Kitchen and Bath Cabinets. Visit Drexel's new design center on 146th Street at River Road or on North Shadeland. DrexelIN.com.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
So Biden gets to the end of his big slam-banging State of the Union bonanza, and the media is going crazy. They're oh, this is feisty Biden, and they're so just thrilled beyond all belief. And it does seem that the president is kind of running with that, from today. The questions still remain, though. Did the president actually accomplish what he needed to prove, what he needed to accomplish in order to win the election in November? And so we're going to go through those one by one, those three questions, and we're going to break it down explicitly so there's no room left for question here. So did Biden prove to the American people that he is the guy that they elected in 2020, both in leadership and in mental and physical capacity? The answer is absolutely not. Absolutely not. Was Biden's behavior better than a lot of people were expecting? Well, the bar was set incredibly low. I mean, there was a lot of discussion as to whether the president of the United States might actually collapse under the weight and exertion of being like up in front of people for an hour. The president of the United States is incredibly weak. They did give him a serious amount of stimulants, and you actually got to watch it kind of peak and then fall off during the speech. And what you ended up getting was the other side of the dementia patient. So as I posted this on Twitter X, as any nurse with a week of experience with elderly patients, especially those that suffer from dementia, can tell you, there are basically two sides to the mood of a dementia patient. Mood number one is the lost child, the lost and scared child, from with absolutely no idea what's going on, a little bit scared, unable to connect with what's going on around them. We've seen that with President Biden before. The other side to the dementia problem, to the other mood that often comes forward, is like a manic yelling. And we saw some of this manic yelling at the president, or from the president's mouth at the State of the Union. He just started screaming and lashing out. We've had reports of this for ages from the White House, that he's like walking around and like reaming out interns and staffers for like nothing, like just for thin air. There's a rumor that he actually might have yelled at a bust, like a statue in the White House. The president of the United States is definitely not the same guy that ran in 2020. And he really wasn't great then either. He hid in his basement for the entire election for a reason. That said, he doesn't have that opportunity now. And getting in front of the country and yelling that everyone is Hitler is not really going to help him. Number two, did he prove that he can be the president of the moderate middle? This is an important question. It is the most important question because Biden ran in 2020 as the unity president. Hey, let's return back to normal. Hey, remember when the Americans were all good guys and we all were just buddies and thing. He ran as a 90s Labor Democrat, and he completely botched it. It took him less than 3 minutes, a record-breaking time, to start going after political opponents. And goodness gracious, the entire party should be encouraging Biden to be moderate in his campaign and kind of go for the middle. And what you're actually getting is the exact opposite right now. So at the one point in the speech, when Marjorie Taylor Greene heckled him and he ended up finally talking about Laken Riley, but he called her Lincoln Riley, he referred to Laken Riley's murderer as an illegal because, the guy's in the country illegally because he didn't cross the border at a point of entry. If he crossed at a point of entry, that would make him a legal immigrant. with a visa or a green card or something that proves he's, legally allowed to be here. But he didn't. He crossed illegally, so that makes him an illegal. Well, the left lost their minds that Biden, who has been in Congress forever, the old stuff is going to leak out every once in a while. The left lost their minds. So you have individuals all over Twitter who were freaking out that he called immigrants illegals. There are individuals like Professor Anthony Zenkis, who's a professor at Columbia, and he said that Biden called immigrants illegals because he's secretly a right-wing racist and he's courting Republican voters. Okay. Then you had congresswomen jumping on their soapboxes, like Congresswoman Delia Ramirez saying no human being is illegal. Ilhan Omar, no human being is illegal. It is really interesting that they think that individuals who are illegal are like the National Guard putting up razor wire or people on January the 6th. But when it comes to illegal immigrants that are killing United States citizens, then it's time to clutch the pearls. The real point to note here is that progressives, both in Biden's cabinet, in Biden's side of Congress, they are going to continue pushing him to the more progressive left, which means Biden's not going to moderate. At one point, he actually started chastising the leader of the United Auto Workers. He started going after the union, which for a Democrat is just like, oh no. Biden abandoning the Rust Belt in this election is patently insane. The UAW could be the only reason he barely scrapes by in Michigan, because the Muslim voter base has abandoned him over the Israel and Hamas war. So Biden throwing the union members who are already peeling off to go vote for Trump because, there's no money under Biden and also the electric vehicle program. We'll talk about that a little bit in the last segment here. But the last thing that Biden really needed to prove was that he isn't as bad as Trump. Biden has spent the last several years calling Trump this loud and angry, crazy fascist who's intent on destroying democracy. But as Biden proved and reiterated in his State of the Union address, he is now just as crazy and loud. Screaming and yelling and slapping the podium and calling everybody Hitler. That's pretty loud and angry and crazy. That's pretty manic. Slurring his words everywhere and not really any idea what's going on, like deviating off of script and then hopping back on in a different place, probably giving the White House interns a stroke and a half. Biden's administration is also targeting political opponents. Here's what it looks like when President Biden openly threatened the Supreme Court of the United States over Roe v. Wade and abortion.
And with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you're right about that.
You're about to realize just how right the bird. I don't know what the threat is not necessarily clear, like that women are going to appoint more justices to the Supreme Court, that women are going to elect, realistically probably means that suburban women in the United States are so passionate about being able to get abortions on demand and like right up until the point of birth that because again, the opposite side of the aisle, Donald Trump wants like a 16-week national ban on abortion maybe. And as far as that's concerned, that's like far more liberal than most European countries on that issue. Anywho, as far as Biden is concerned, he thinks that suburban women are going to come out in droves because of abortion, and they're going to carry him through the election. The demographic ain't big enough. We're going to talk about that next time, too. Finally, his entire base is calling for the Senate, the Supreme Court, several different Republican groups, and a lot of other industries around the United States to be completely dissolved. So as far as the claim that Donald Trump is trying to destroy democracy through fascism, it kind of helps for you not to be the democracy-destroying fascist. Or, encouraging the prosecution of your political opponents, and then, chastising the Supreme Court for making sure that both candidates are on the ballot in all 50 states, not to mention a whole host of other really disturbing regulatory trends that have put a lot of Americans at the behest of just the whim of the pen of the executive order. This all ends up boiling down to the core lessons to be learned. Because for the average Hoosier, the common individual across the country, if you don't keep these lessons in mind, then no matter what the results of the November election are, which are far bigger than the presidency of the United States, we will end up falling into the same nonsense year after year after year, and we will never leave 2016. We will stay in 2016 until America learns this lesson. Stick around. You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
Everything is so expensive now. It makes it very hard for young people who don't want to be freeloaders, who want to be independent, who want to have their own existence, who want to do everything we say society should be wanting to do.
And especially in the past couple of years, how much rent has raised. The cost for everything. The energy bill is going to be higher. Food prices.
Kendall and Casey. Weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
If you can plan barbecue emergency kit and make a family communications plan, get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council. Your nose is for breathing. Your mouth is for eating. And if you're breathing through your mouth, it's not because your body wants to. It's because it has to, because your nose isn't working properly. And although you've lived like this, it's no way to live, and it's having a significant impact on your life. I know you know this, and I know that taking action isn't always convenient. But at Advent, we've done all we can to make changing your life for the better as easy as possible. I'm Dr. Madan Kandula. With tens of thousands of our patients, a thorough breathing triangle evaluation, along with a simple 20-minute in-office procedure called balloon sinuplasty, has opened their nasal passages, allowing them to breathe freely through their nose for good. And there's a good chance this procedure can do the same for you. We'll help you breathe through your nose again, and it will change your life.
Go to adventknows.com to schedule your appointment, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better. Results may vary.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Do gurgling pipes, a running toilet, a small leak in your basement keep you up at night? Hey, Pat Sullivan here, and I can tell you that becoming a member at Hope Plumbing will give you the comfort of knowing you have a plumber on call. For only $8 a month, you get the ease of having your own plumber on hand, a 10% discount on all plumbing services, 1 annual free mainline cleaning, 1 annual plumbing safety inspection, and all the trip charges waived. Call Hope Plumbing today and become a member to start saving big.
LD Smith Plumbing.
A dirty, stinking honest. Life is busy enough without plumbing problems. That's why you need an expert to fix it right the first time. Plumbing may not be pretty, but we're pretty darn good at it. And we'll always give you honest advice at a fair price. That's the LD Smith Plumbing Promise. Call today for $50 off any plumbing repair, big or small.
LD Smith Plumbing.
A dirty, stinking honest.
We're all different. 1 in 5 of us live with a mental illness. Don't filter who you are. Talk to someone you trust. Learn more at bringchangetomind.org.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Hey, welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on 93 WIBC. It's kind of a different show today, and there's a good reason for that. First of all, I really really don't like. The idea in kind of modern media in which you'll just take a few excerpts from something kind of overall and then just kind of go over and abbreviate what it means to the rest of the country, basically via the kind of onus or reputable reasoning of one or two clips. Let me explain what I mean. So when Donald Trump got in front of the country and he said that the actions of violent illegal immigrants, like the gang members from Venezuela, he said they were poisoning the blood of our country. And everyone lost their minds. And even a lot of my friends and colleagues, they were very upset by that statement. And so they took that one statement and they broke it down the entire day. And how, this is how this statement affects you in this way. And this is what this, and the Von Trapp family singers and Nazi Germany. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I want you, if you care about some of the things coming out of the Supreme Court, I want you to do two things. Number one, you can read our analysis of the things Biden claimed, with quotes, clips, and all of that over at Daily Signal. Number two, you can actually go and watch the State of the Union, and then you can come back and see if the stuff that I'm saying is true. Fact check me. Don't take the stuff that I say for granted. Don't ever do that. Be Bereans. Bereans were individuals who, when they were preached to, they followed the preacher along with the scripture in front of them to make sure that he wasn't full of it or trying to lead him along the primrose path. And the reason that I start this segment with that kind of a proviso, that kind of a disclaimer, is because there is a crucial lesson both sides need to learn moving forward from this State of the Union address. Because now Biden has done everything that he can do. The debates are not going to matter if he even does the debates. And if he did the debates, Donald Trump would pretty thoroughly wreck him, unless you can actually get Biden as souped up as they did before, and he doesn't start screaming at Donald Trump, which, knowing Trump and knowing how he's responded to that in the past, probably wouldn't go very well. Biden's campaign is set in stone at this point. Donald Trump's campaign has not yet been set in stone, and that is a very important distinction to make. So, what is the lesson that we need to learn from this? Because every other person, if you're considering running for office or not, Republicans just appointed 2 new RNC chairs today to replace Ronna McDaniel, and the Democrats may have some big decisions to make in the summer. So what is the lesson to be learned? The year may be 2024, but media and politicians are still acting like it's 2016. Everything is extremely hyperpolar. The right has consolidated not around traditional conservatism and no longer around kind of establishmentarian status quoism, but they have consolidated around populism, which is kind of this everything is bad and is therefore a conspiracy against the normal people in the country. Sometimes that's true. A lot of times it's not. And the left is kind of consolidating around like hyper-progressivism. This November election is the first double incumbent election since 1892. It all comes down to 2 problems both candidates have to solve. Neither one of them can kind of skimp out on these. If either one of these candidates don't solve both of these problems, they lose the election. And these are the kind of questions that are either going to be solved by one person or the other. You kind of can't opt out of this. Number one, you have to get the moderates of your faction to come out. And number 2, you have to get the demographics of your faction to come out. So first of all, you have to get the moderates. You have to get the moderates, guys. I know that sometimes people don't like them, but that's too bad. The hyper version of your base is not enough. Political analysts from every side and spectrum of the aisle agree that there are not enough of a base to pull an electoral victory in one way or another, and for that matter, maybe only in 1 or 2 states in the entire union. You desperately need the moderates to actually come out and vote. And so saying stupid things and acting insane, like President Biden did at the State of the Union, it hurts the moderates. Biden's moderates are the factory union workers, the labor Democrats. Calling out the UAW leader and calling him greedy and stupid at a time when the UAW is already starting to leave Biden as a whole is very dumb. Governing to the far pole of an ideology hurts. You also have to get to the demographics of your faction. This is where Biden has made the biggest blunder in history. It is going to completely ruin him. Biden is going after multiple opposing groups at the same time, like neither of them watch him on social media and the news. So Biden is busy courting pro-Palestine and pro-Hamas individuals, which are Muslims by the polling data, And the youths, lower millennials we're out. We're all in our like 30s now. So it's Gen Z's turn to underperform as the youth vote. So that's one side he's trying to court. That's not going to work because they're not going to come out and vote for him in the numbers that he thinks. And then Jews, secular and religious, as well as the majority of moderate Democrats in the country, like Labor Democrats, who support Israel, mainly people who are 30 or older. He's going after both. And he is in the process of shooting himself in the foot. He's also trying to go after the Labor Democrats of the Rust Belt, which we've talked about, while at the same time, people in those regions are beyond upset because of Secretary Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, who has no idea what he's doing, and the super Green Party initiatives from the coasts that are in the process of shutting down auto manufacturing factories and converting them into these electric vehicle plants that are horrible for the economy because nobody's buying them. Meanwhile, on the other side, Donald Trump actually appears to be trying to govern to the moderate. He's trying to campaign to the moderate. His policy proposals, he's strong on illegal immigration, which is the top issue in the country right now, period. And he's also talking about restoring the economy, which is the second biggest issue. He's talking about restoring America in a common sense way abroad, which is, again, peace through strength. And then lastly, but not leastly, when it actually comes to the social issues, while Biden claims that Trump wants a federal ban on abortion, Donald Trump wants it capped at 16 weeks, which is incredibly moderate. So right now we have the very, very weird distinction of watching Donald Trump run to the more moderate side, who is already reminiscent of the good economy and the general peace abroad in the world, versus the absolute insanity slapping them every day at the grocery store, on the television, no matter if they're trying to watch news or something that they enjoy. It is constantly shoved in their face. And Biden got up in front of the whole country at the State of the Union address, and instead of bringing the country together and claiming unity, which is what Donald Trump is doing, wildly enough, Biden got up in front of the country and called everyone who doesn't disagree with him Putin-loving, Hitler, abortion-hating, women-hating, whatevers. And screamed it. And then threatened the Supreme Court of the United States. You either learn the lesson or you don't, folks. And if the common Hoosier understands it and they don't, kind of makes you wonder why leadership is in places it's at. Thank you very much for sticking around this week. I know it's been a long one. We'll see you soon. You have been listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
The cold days are almost past. Warmer spring is getting close.